We'll do it live.
Maxxxine.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the lounge. We got a couple people here. We're going to talk about Maxxxine. The three of us went to Maxxxine last night, which is the third in the trilogy by, who's the director?
Ty West.
Ty West. Pearl, X, Maxxxine. Although X came out first, Pearl came out second, Maxxxine.
Right.
But before we do that, Maria has concocted a beautiful drink
Yes.
for us for this in honor of this film. So what is the name of your drink? Or what is the drink?
The drink is Sex on the Beach.
And how do you spell that?
Well, I added a few extra
You did?
X's because of Maxxxine.
Right.
But so
camera,
okay,
hold it
sorry.
up.
It was originated
Hold it up.
in 1985,
Okay.
actually. And what happened was the makers of peach schnapps had a contest. And in Florida, and they said, who can make the best drink with peach schnapps? And so one of the bartenders came up with this drink called Sex on the Beach. He named it that because people come to Florida for two things, for sex and the beach.
There
and
you
that's
go.
how it came.
Now, was this
There we
in the
go.
movie Cocktail? Was Sex on the Beach?
Okay, I've never seen Cocktail.
Cocktail, when did that come out? That's got a 9.
It's got a
90s.
mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s?
I think it's mid to late 80s, maybe later 80s.
But for our show, it's Sex, S-E-X-X-X,
Correct.
on the beach.
Yes.
Yes.
I normally don't drink these, but let's give it a taste.
It's very...
See? Yeah?
It's a little sweet because the
You
peach
didn't mention the
schnapps.
ingredients. What are the ingredients?
So it is 1.5 ounces of vodka, 1/2 ounce of peach schnapps, and then 2 ounces of orange juice and 2 ounces of cranberry juice, and then a maraschino cherry and an orange for
Not
garnish.
too bad, actually.
No, it's very light, summery. And it's very 80s. That's what
It
I
is
like
a
about
very
it.
80s.
Did you
It
use a lot
feels-
of vodka in here or not?
Well, I did
No vodka,
up.
schnapps?
I did up the level of vodka.
Yeah.
Because I may not have to drink a beer now. I think I'm enjoying it. All right. So let's talk about Maxxxine. Chris has not seen. Maxxxine was the only one you've seen of the three.
That's correct. I actually watched the trailers for both of those films, right? For X
Okay.
and Pearl.
Right.
And I could kind of figure out the way the movie was going. I felt like the trailers were, especially the X trailer, was very showing too much. I felt like it kind of told me the story for the most part.
Okay.
You know?
Let's back up a step. Okay. So X was the first one that came out.
Right.
And that was his homage to 70s slasher. Not really slasher, but like
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
That's the vibe.
And it's
it
about
was
a group
given.
of people, a porn. They're going to shoot a porn at an
Right.
old farm, and in the middle of all the shooting, the owners of the farm end up basically killing them all,
Right.
or going after them.
Yeah.
Maya Goth, who plays Maxxxine, now she wasn't the main person. She was like the final girl in the film, but she
Right.
wasn't the main. There was a woman. What's the blonde woman? I'll have to. She played a blonde. I'll have to
Right.
go on IMDb here. So it was a group of people shooting a porn film,
Right.
and then they happen upon people who end up murdering them all,
Sure.
Right.
or trying to murder them all.
But isn't it just the old woman?
The husband was doing it too.
Oh, okay.
So the old woman was named Pearl.
Right,
I
right.
forget the name of the father.
Right.
They start murdering everybody. Well, it turns out Maya Goth was playing both Maxxxine, this young porn star, and Pearl.
Right.
They put her in, they put her
makeup.
in makeup, and
Yeah.
they made her the old lady.
Right.
So she becomes my thing's always slipping. She becomes the final girl.
Right.
Right.
Ends the movie with her murdering the father. I don't think she murdered the father. I know she murdered Pearl. Okay, killed Pearl.
Yep.
So they decide to make a prequel, and Maya Goth plays Pearl, the who was ultimately the old lady.
Right.
I have not seen that one.
Right.
So that's got a different vibe than both X and Maxxxine.
Yes.
So
At least from what I could tell from the preview.
right, and all the reviews
trailer.
that I have heard is it's definitely different than the other two.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, some of them are complaining that her energy in Pearl kind of takes away from her energy in Maxxxine. I don't feel that way.
Okay.
Now, I have seen X. Maria has seen X. You have not. I don't think you need to have seen X to get the vibe of this film.
No.
There was a couple of things that happened that flashback, but it's a flashback, so you could kind of figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel
Yeah,
that you
I
missed
mean,
anything by not seeing?
No.
And ultimately, you're going to see X. You should.
Okay.
And you should see Pearl as
Right.
well,
All
I
right.
think.
If I get the time.
Well,
I mean, no, I will. I enjoyed Maxxxine quite a bit. I mean, I have a few issues with it overall, but yeah, I mean, the only thing for me was like, well, we can get into it when we start talking about the movie, but yeah, no, I think this is one of those movies where you can watch it, and if somebody were to have told me, oh, by the way, there's 2 movies before this with this girl in it, and they're all kind of related, I'd have been like, oh, well, I still got it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the plot of Maxxxine is it takes place, I think, 7 years later. I think
It's 85.
Okay, so X. Okay, 6 years later, because X took place in 1979.
Right.
And Maria, you saw it, and you enjoyed it. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't. I mean, it was a horror film, so there's some splatter in there and things like that. So this takes place 6 years later. She was a porn star in X, or she was doing a porn film.
Right.
She's now an established porn star in Hollywood,
Yep.
but wants to get into the mainstream. So this movie starts out with her auditioning for a mainstream horror film.
Right.
And then ultimately, throughout the plot of the film, some people start coming around her that knew what happened in Texas. It happened in took place in Texas. So there's a private detective played by Kevin Bacon, who is representing somebody who's looking for Maxxxine to. We don't know at the beginning, but why are they looking for this woman? In the meantime, what's happening this takes place in 1985 in Hollywood,
Right.
same time as you would know better, the serial killer.
Richard Ramirez.
He's
Sorry.
The Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker is
Night
happening
Stalker.
in L.A. So it's
Yeah.
But
and-
there
and
are also copycat serial killers. So the thing is
in general there are, or are you
yes.
saying in the movie?
So the Golden State Killer is also happening at the same time, and so
Okay.
he was parallel to Richard Ramirez.
So there's all these killings going on.
Right.
So that makes sense in
So-
the film now, because what's happening is
Yes.
there are friends of Maxxxine, female friends, are dying.
right,
Getting murdered.
right.
Now it's all wrapped around this Richard Ramirez, who's terrorizing all of Hollywood and Los Angeles.
And and I will say this, one thing I did find that was kind of neat was when they kind of were talking about, the fact that Richard Ramirez, people had, given it all the satanic overtones with him, right?
Right.
And things like
Now,
that.
when they found his victims, were they branded?
No.
Okay.
They
So
weren't
that's-
branded.
okay.
And I think that's a total...
But
Yeah.
the sign of the pentagram was like around him.
Yes.
It was at the scene.
It was at the scene, that's why
And
it's
then
there.
it plays into the whole 80s satanic panic.
Satanic panic.
Yeah.
Like there was even a nice shot where they didn't use the name Dungeons and Dragons, but because I'm sure they couldn't get the rights to it because they obviously don't want to be
Right.
reminded of that at all. But there was like an article where there was like a headline. It said something about satanic fantasy game or something like that, and that's an obvious allusion to that that whole thing. They even did, funny enough, if you look up on YouTube, you can even find a 60 minutes segment about the Dungeons and Dragons satanic panic.
That's
Yes.
a riot.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So that's all going on in the film. Now, you're telling me during the Ramirez, the Hillside Strangler stuff. Was he Hillside or no?
No,
Okay.
no, he
He's
was
the
the
Night
Night
Stalker.
Stalker.
Oh, Night Stalker. Okay. They were finding pentagrams around where people were.
Around the scene. So
Okay.
so he wasn't. It wasn't necessarily branded on people,
Okay.
but part of it was there was like a pentagram or some satanic thing.
Okay, so they were
was his
leaning
shtick.
into that. You're
Yeah.
seeing news reports
Yeah.
about all that.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, her friends are getting murdered.
Well, I think what the movie did really well was setting the stage for all that. So it had the Tipper Gore stuff with
Right.
the censorship,
Twisted Sister.
Twisted
Yeah,
Sister.
right.
It had,
Snyder.
Dee
Right, Dee
Snyder.
Snyder.
It kind of really set the stage for the public, and people were like, "Oh my God, Satan's taking over."
Yeah.
So I think they did a really
They
good
leaned into
job of that and
It's an
portraying
interesting
LA
companion
at the time.
It's an interesting companion to the other film we saw this week called Longlegs,
Correct.
which also dives into that a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about that
Yeah.
later on, to compare these two because of the marketing on both of these films. All right, so Maxxxine is a ball of energy. She's like and they do this whole thing at the beginning where you see an old movie of her. Okay, so what you didn't know because you hadn't seen X, the way X ended after she kills Pearl, it cuts to a TV screen, and you realize that Maxxxine was raised by a firebrand preacher.
Right.
Okay. This movie starts with another scene like that.
Right.
And the line where he says, "You got to be the best person you can be." I forget what the exact line, but that became her reason for everything she does.
Right.
And her reason was, I just want to be the most famous person in the world.
Sure.
She thinks she's going to get there through movies,
Yeah.
legitimate movies.
Right.
Now, every dude that saw her in this film recognized her from her point.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
that. So
Big fan of your work.
So we'll talk about. Let's talk about the 80s of this film.
Yeah,
like
sure.
so I compared this to. It's not a direct comparison, but what Tarantino did in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the way he portrayed late Hollywood in 1969.
Right.
I think Ty West nailed the 80s in this one. Do you think? Or even the credits had the VHS like banding.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of movies look back on the 80s and romanticize them. They have the side ponies and the bright neon colors and and what I think he did here was illustrate what LA really looked like.
Yeah.
And
Pretty dingy
pretty dingy and
desperate.
Yeah, what porn really was like and what all these things what it really looked like.
Right.
And it wasn't all, neon colors and side ponies.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I liked a lot of it because it was kind of grimier and things like that, and I thought he did a good job. Some of it felt still a little, like all movies, it's a little heightened.
Of
it's
course, I mean, that's
it's
what
always
movies
going to be a
are.
bit.
I mean, they're
going to
be
heightened. But I did really like, it did feel like in a lot of ways it felt like an 80s film, except it was obviously more extreme. I don't remember.
Well, yeah, you're heightened again. Okay,
Yeah.
so
like
there's some set pieces in
like
here.
the
that,
ball crushing scene.
Well, I was just gonna say there are set pieces in here that
I did go,
that feed into her personality.
Right.
And her personality is she just goes at things hard.
Yep.
And just solves whatever the problem is with violence. I mean, that scene you're talking about is the they do all these great things about showing whatever street they're driving on in Hollywood, and you see those people dressed as Buster Keaton, Wonder Woman. They did that whole those weird people who do the thing. And then there's a scene where Buster Keaton basically tries to attack her, and she turns the tables on him, and basically that was the one time I heard you groan. Took his nuts out.
It was pretty
Spoilers,
graphic.
by the way.
Spoilers.
We're going to spoil this because it's hard to not talk about this without spoiling.
Yeah.
I thought the set pieces like that were pretty good. Ty West, X, to me, I haven't seen Pearl. I think Pearl's going to have but I love the aesthetic of X because he did hit on the the aesthetic of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Sure.
The 70s aesthetic. And he does the same thing in that one that he did. Remember, this one starts with 1985.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. He did the same thing in X, although I think he started in 1918, gave us a little prequel into Pearl in that film, if I remember. They started in 1918, I think. How did you feel about the like the VHS talk and the when the guy she hands him a VHS and goes, "Can you tell me who made this?" As if the guy could actually.
Yeah, that was a sequence where I was like, what?
That's her friend who owned a video store.
Like, I worked in a video store for a...
Which video store did you work at?
I worked at Blockbuster.
Okay, just say it. I don't know why you don't say that proudly.
Well, no,
I'd be proud of that.
That's a good
I worked
one.
at Blockbuster for a long time, and while I could take apart a video cassette and put it back together and fix them and do stuff like...
You wouldn't know where it was recorded?
No. Like, that was kind of like... I was like... I mean, at least he was like, yeah, there's no way to really tell you where. He's like, oh, this is an old one, so I might be able to tell you what region it's still sold in.
Right.
So that's at least something, like, legitimate, but honestly, I mean, that was a little... And the funny thing is it never comes back. Like, he never comes back to her and goes, oh, this was sold in Texas.
Here's what I said to Maria. I go, why wouldn't he
he...
immediately put that tape in and watch it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's again, that video showed footage from the porno they were making in X called The Farmer's Daughter.
Yeah, yes.
So that's what that was about. So somebody had blackmail on her, Kevin Bacon, playing this. Jake Geddes was
yeah, he basically what happens
the
is
homage, a lot of homages in this film.
Yeah.
A lot of homage.
And this one was definitely his PI is like a super sleazy Jake Geddes from Chinatown. He's got the white suit that like Jack Nicholson wears, and at one point he gets beat up a bit by her, and so he actually has a bandage over his nose, just like Nicholson did.
Right.
When
right.
You know, it's funny.
The knife when Polanski.
Yeah, Polanski is the guy who plays the guy who literally defaces his own actor. There's probably a lot to read in there, but anyway, but no, yeah. So, but Kevin Bacon's really dislikable, and I like.
Well, despicable.
Yeah, he's great.
He's great.
He's great,
Yeah.
and
He has a good.
He's got a great.
Again, I want to spoil it because
Yeah.
the scene where they.
Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't even talked about. Okay, so the whole movie starts with her auditioning for a legitimate film.
Yeah. Well, it is a sequel.
Well, it's a B movie horror
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, it's a sequel.
But the director,
to a,
who's the, I don't know the actress.
It's a
who's
legitimate
playing-
movie in the sense it's not an adult film.
Right.
Right.
But it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's called not Prophecy.
The Puritan.
The Puritan
Puritan.
2.
Two.
Right. But the director is this tall, beautiful
Yes.
British woman who basically takes Maxxine under her wing
Yeah.
and is using her as a surrogate, like all the things that she is like they're not gonna treat you well. They're gonna tell you you're no good. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, stick to your guns. You're gonna be great. And she ultimately says to her, so this whole movie takes place, I think, over a couple of days.
Yeah. Can't be more. than
And
that.
she's about to go. Her time on the movie is going to start on a Monday.
Yeah.
And the director says, just go squash all your whatever you're
Right.
dealing with. Go squash all those problems.
Yeah.
And then
She's
Kevin
like, I
Bacon
intend
gets
to.
squashed.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. I didn't even put that together till just.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's a great scene.
Oh, I know.
I haven't seen one like that where you're actually like it looked like he was in that car. I mean,
Oh,
that was
it's
an
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
That was an amazing scene. But talk about all the other references. You spotted one early when she's standing on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Oh yeah.
And it turns out that woman. Good. Say who the name was.
She's standing over the Hollywood Walk of Fame star for Theta Bara, I think is how you say it. And she was one of the very first true sex symbols of silent era
movies.
Hollywood, like before the Hays
Right.
Code, before all of that.
Right.
And she's a good-looking woman, no matter
Right.
what time period she's
Right.
in. And it was I couldn't remember at the time, but I think that she had possibly been murdered, or at least
I don't know.
was.
All I know is Pearl.
Uh-huh.
Pearl, her whole goal is to become a Hollywood actress.
Right.
And that woman posters all over that movie.
Oh,
so that's a callback
okay,
to Pearl.
To Pearl.
Total
Okay.
callback to Pearl.
Right.
There are so many callbacks to all kinds of movies in this one. It's you mentioned Chinatown. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
any satanic panic film that came out, her ultimately the person who ends up being the bad person is just he's a caricature of.
And of course, the fact that there's a sequence of events that take place in a video store. There's just a million posters.
Yeah,
they're
all over the place.
Yeah, and there's just every box. Like, when you used to go searching around and there were just the boxes after boxes.
Well, he had a great story, and that guy ends up getting slaughtered in that store. And that's what I mean. This movie was like, okay, I want to bring up Long Legs. Marie and I saw Long Legs. The marketing on that is this is the creepiest film you're ever going to see. It's the most horrific, blah, 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 blah. And it turns out nothing.
Really?
It's a good film.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it wasn't a good film,
Right.
but it wasn't. This one had more gore and more genuine kind of. I was worried about Maya Goth. I mean, her character, Maxxine. I know she was gonna. Ultimately, she's gonna win. But there's two detectives played by
Bobby Cannavale.
Cannavale and Megan. What's her name? Monahan.
Bridget Moynihan?
No. What's her name? Oh my
I don't
God,
know.
it's ridiculous.
I'm
This is
having
awful. This is awful.
It's lack of preparation.
She was in oh God. She was in Mission Impossible and the first Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Okay, I'm gonna get it right here. You guys keep talking. I'll find it. I'll find the cast.
Yeah. I did like the soundtrack.
Oh, by the way, Elizabeth
it was a little
Debicki played the director. She was great.
Yeah.
She was good.
I think, I finally think I figured out what
Giancarlo
else she was
Esposito.
in.
Yeah.
Because it was bothering me the whole film. Because, how you recognize
Right.
somebody?
Michelle Monaghan.
She was in the woman who played the director, Elizabeth Debicki, or however you pronounce it. She was in an amazing British TV miniseries called The Night Manager, starring
heard about that.
Tom Hiddleston and
It's like
the guy that plays House. I hated to say it that way.
Yeah.
I can't. Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie.
Yeah, she plays basically the girl in that film, and she's stunning in that movie. She's amazing in this movie. It's great.
They say her issue is she's too tall. Like they're having trouble casting her because she's so tall.
I believe it. Like she's a tall. Like
Anyway, so
let me
she-
put it this way: she was at least as tall as Tom Hiddleston, if not an inch taller.
She was great, and she
She
was
was
great, and I liked
fantastic.
her the female empowerment. Everything she was doing was just like she knew she was a porn star. But Maxxine had the greatest,
Audition.
She said to everybody in that she walked by all those actresses.
yeah.
Go home, ladies. I got this one. I mean, the complaints I've been hearing about the film is that her energy isn't the same as it was in X, and it was in Pearl. Now Pearl's a completely different person. So why
Would it be the same?
And people are a little disappointed. I mean, we hear them all the time. And how did you feel about?
Well, here's the thing about her energy. I felt like, her energy was different because she was in a different place.
Yeah.
She's trying to step over what she was before.
Right.
So she's trying to be a strong woman, but at the same time, she's trying to move into a world she's not been in before.
Right.
So she doesn't want to burn her bridges. And so that's one of the things I actually liked about the movie is because at this point she realized she might need help. Like in X, she figured it all out. She got it done. I haven't seen
she had no
Pearl.
choice. I mean,
Right,
she
she
was
had
getting
no
attacked,
choice.
right.
But this time she enlisted. She finally was like, I got to go to my lawyer guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to get some help. Like, so she
That was a
finally
good
is like,
payoff, too.
I want this so bad
Yeah.
that I might need some help. And it's the first time, like, I liked that. I thought that was realistic. Like, she had to figure out who she could trust and who she couldn't trust.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you guys know my feelings about Maya Goth. I just find her to be fascinating. And I don't know if you haven't seen Infinity Pool. Have you seen Infinity Pool?
No. Apparently, I'm sleeping on Maya Goth.
Yeah, you're sleeping on Maya Goth.
It's awesome.
I just like watching her. Her. She's just so present. I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel the complaints everybody's having. That's just like low key. I just felt this movie like I was in it from beginning to end. I wasn't drifting. I wasn't. I wanted to know. You guys said you figured out pretty early on who.
Immediately.
I mean, for me, part of the issue is the reason I knew it had to be her dad or whoever was taking care of her or shooting that film at the beginning was because they didn't give us any other red herrings. Like there was no other options for it to be anybody else.
Right.
We know it's not Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Right.
Right. Because let me put it this way.
Because even the police said it's not the Night Stalker.
They're like
this is
we're
the
like
Night
they're
Stalker.
just trying to pin it on
Right.
him, to get.
No, we got to
whatever.
back up. Yeah, because the father was murdering people and trying to make it look like the other person.
Right. Yeah. Because
so
he
was doing it at the same time.
It turns out he is. Spoilers, guys. Sorry, but it turns out he is kind of the mastermind behind this
Satanic
religious cult
Right.
that is on the other side of it. They're obviously super Christian, and they're going to punish.
And Hollywood is stealing their children.
right, and they're going to punish everybody involved,
Right.
with violence if necessary.
Right.
And my biggest complaint about the movie, I thought she was great. I thought the setting was great. I liked a lot of the characters in the thing, but my issue was that it really just kind of felt like it all just kind of drifted along until we got to the climax. Right. And what I mean by drifted along,
there was some great set pieces.
There was
It
some
didn't
really
drift along.
I felt like it drifted along in the sense that there was.
Would you want to be a 10-minute movie?
No, I just saying like there was nothing else going on. Like there were no other possibilities. We weren't introduced to anybody else that could have been the murderer. Right. Like there's no.
Yeah, but it was all focused on her.
Yeah,
Kevin
Right.
Bacon coming in and saying, "I've got someone who is paying me to find you.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna, all the things you did in Texas are gonna come out, and you're gonna be in trouble. What more do you need than that?
The only
Well-
time I doubted that it was the dad, because I did the same thing. As soon as that video came up, and that's her dad. And all along I said it was her dad. The only time I doubted it was when the Peep Show. I'm like, what father would pay to see a Peep Show?
Have you not seen Hardcore?
No.
with George C.
Of course.
Scott?
Okay.
Okay, well there you
No,
go.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But he
that's
does
the only
rip that
time- But
thing
then
off.
he ends
Well,
up
he's mad.
ripping the thing
The other
off.
thing
Like,
is, how
he-
old is that dude? I mean,
Old
if
guys
he,
can be strong.
I guess not me, but yeah, I guess.
I mean, look at the guy who did the push-ups with his legs off the ground. Palance?
Who? Jacqueline Lane? Who?
No,
Jack
not-
Palance?
Yeah.
Jack Palance?
Yes.
Yeah.
He did
yeah.
do
That was
it
a
with
long
his
time.
legs off the ground.
Yeah, he did some amazing.
He did some push-ups at the Oscars. He didn't. He
It
barely.
was just push-ups at the
Yeah,
Oscars,
that's all he
though.
did.
But he's an old guy. And he
I know,
did
but he didn't
push-ups.
take it. He wasn't doing planks up there. He was-
It wasn't like his legs weren't off the ground.
right.
Oh,
The hell
don't
is
look
that?
at
I mean,
Oh my
don't
God.
get me wrong. I'm sure he, at that age, still could have kicked my ass. But like,
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No. So yeah, I never. It didn't. It took me a while to figure out the dad side because it's like it was obvious though. It should have been obvious because right from the start. But I just like the mystery of Kevin Bacon.
yeah.
And why he was so sleazy.
He was
really leaning.
He's
into,
great.
He's
Yeah.
really leaning in some sleazy shit, which
Hey.
is great because his face is getting all craggy. He's definitely he's not the the what do you call it? What's the movie he did with
Footloose?
the Footloose? He's not the Footloose guy. He's getting
No,
nasty.
yeah, he's getting-
because he was just in Axel F.
Oh, he
And then
was?
the
Was he?
new which I didn't like, but. He's playing the bad guy in that one. It's obvious right from the get. So he's great. I love the gold teeth he
gold
had.
teeth.
Oh, yeah.
And then they do that whole thing. Now, the one review I heard of people who live in L.A., they were bouncing between all the studios.
Right.
So they're rolling in Warner Brothers, and then they go to the Psycho House, which is
Yeah.
Universal's
which
lot.
is Universal's
Right.
lot. Yeah.
So they're
Right.
but who cares? I mean, they do
Yeah.
this thing where they show the Bates Motel.
Well,
I just
and the point is that we like to see all the sets. I mean,
yeah, I think Ty West was like, look, I'm
Yeah.
gonna just
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
part of the thing
same
is
thing Tarantino did in
Yeah.
with all the theaters that he was showing in his movie too.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing those two,
Right.
but I'm just saying it's the love of Hollywood.
Sure. And I mean, I think it's funny because I mentioned this to you guys when we walked out. Is I've actually been on the backlot tour at Universal where they show you the Bates Motel and the Psycho House, and the Psycho House is literally like 50% size. It's not like
So little mini house.
Basically, the idea is they just set the camera
Yeah.
back and they make it look big.
Yeah.
You know? But no, I love that. Obviously, it's one of those things where I remember when Pulp Fiction came out. Like a film scholar guy who's written a number of books about film. He was talking about that movie as like he didn't like Pulp Fiction too much. I don't know if he's gone back and reassessed it because he felt like Tarantino was jamming in all this like trivia about Hollywood and all this kind of stuff, and he got distracted by all the little like nods to this, and Ty West did a lot there. I love that stuff personally. you
Well,
know?
it's like if we watch a film that takes
Yeah.
place in D.C.
right.
and the big one is No Way Out,
well,
Oh yeah,
where he goes
yeah.
down in the
Yeah.
metro station in
Yeah.
Georgetown. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
and that's what the L.A. people are always concerned about geography.
Sure, yeah.
And some movies do it like. Heat did it very well.
Yeah, yeah.
Most movies don't. They
Right.
jump from place to place. And there's a lot of stuff that was going on behind the Hollywood sign.
Yeah,
In this one, like,
And
is there
there's
really
no-
a house?
there's
But
no
like
house
you
there.
mentioned, the house from 8 Million Ways to Die. I
Yeah.
think that I don't know if it's the same house,
It's
but the
n-
same idea
Yeah.
with the gondola that takes you
with
up.
the little like inclinator
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So I actually went home last night and rewatched 8 Million Ways to Die.
Because
'Cause
it's
I
on
love-
Tubi. Yeah, it's great.
It's actually on Prime too.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, so it's uncut.
No commercials.
No
I have
commercials.
in mind.
So I love 8 Million Ways to
Yeah.
Die. Even though it's I understand people's criticisms of it, but I'm pretty sure it's not the same house, but it's the same idea.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
somebody-
that whole like you have to get on this little like
yeah.
Yeah,
like
it's such a
cart
weird-
to go. It's so
It
weird.
reminds me of like Sicario,
But it's awesome.
where they have that slow-moving shootout.
Shootout, mhm.
And 8 Million Ways to Die, they're fighting on that super slow.
Oh yeah,
Hey.
it's going up super slow.
Right, now,
yeah.
there's not that doesn't happen in this film because
Yeah,
she just goes
she
up.
just goes
and
up.
all that. But I just found that and the way Bobby Cannavale, is that his name?
Carnivale. maybe?
Cannavale. I love that guy, by the way.
He's great.
He's Snakes
That's
on a
true.
Plane. It's so many movies. He's just great to have in
He's
there.
great in The Station Agent, actually.
Oh, really? That's the other one. You keep
That-
talking about that movie.
That's a good movie,
Really?
man. Yeah, I mean it's a small,
Yeah.
4 or 5 people. Peter Dinklage
oh.
before Tyrion Lannister,
Yeah.
before Game of Thrones. Yeah.
So lots of he hit. I'm trying to think the other '80s stuff. I mean, obviously the VHS stuff was great. The going into the like you said, the peep shows, right? How sleazy all that was back
Oh, yeah.
then. That's hardcore does the same thing. I think hardcore takes place in '80s. And he does the same thing where he drives down that.
Well, the other thing is that they really emphasized how hardworking she was. Maxxine.
Oh no,
She was not expecting anything to be handed to her. So
No.
here she was, making adult films, going to working the peep show, doing whatever.
3
she
jobs
could.
a night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 jobs, and the other workers were talking about
Well,
wow.
it's that whole thing where I just lost it. My brain is like, it's unbelievable. Where she's talking about working hard. I can't. Okay. Let's talk about her agent.
Giancarlo Esposito with that great wave, that wig.
It's awesome.
It's so great.
It's like he doesn't.
He's got the relaxer to make his
He's-
hair
Yeah,
all
the
wavy.
relaxer,
Since Breaking Bad and all that, he plays
yeah.
a particular way now. But
Yeah.
this one,
It was great to see him kind of break out of that version of Gus Fring from
right?
Breaking
That's what I'm
Bad.
saying
Yeah.
because he's in The Boys too.
Yes,
The Boys.
yes.
And he does the same kind of super smart,
Super calculating,
But
unemotional.
this one, when he said, "I'm your agent, I'm the bad guy,"
Yeah.
let them know that. I thought, okay,
Yeah.
he's going to run away. It turns out,
No.
it's freaking.
He was
awesome.
he was real as
Yeah.
he was real as a heart attack.
He was real as a heart attack.
Yeah.
And we'll clean this up.
Yeah. Now I did think it was weird whether that guy with the dogs just kind of materialized.
Well, he was the
He was
porn.
in there-
He was the early
Yeah.
porn.
Yeah.
director. I
Oh,
think he
is
might have
that
been a
okay?
director.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
earlier.
Yeah.
I saw him either earlier in that film or somewhere,
Okay.
but I had seen him with those dogs.
I must
too.
not have made that. I must have missed that connection or something.
Okay, but some of the
Must have been having
when
juicy
people
fruit or
complain about this, when they're like I'm surprised at some of the tepid reviews on this one. They're complaining about her energy, like that she's not quite what they were expecting. They wanted more, and it's like,
Well, that's why I said this. The thing
a
about
different person.
she's trying to figure it out. She wants to take a step into a different world that she hasn't been in yet.
yeah.
So
And she's trying to
it's-
get out of the past world, which
Right.
keeps
So
crawling
it's
up on her.
quieter. It's more like you look at her face
Yeah.
and she's thinking, she's processing.
Yeah.
Because I like to process.
You do. You're a processor.
I'm a processor. So I'm like, oh, look at her process.
Yeah.
She's processing. She's not as active as she was in X, and I'm assuming in Pearl the same way.
Well, Pearl, it's not her.
Yeah,
Remember, she
that's
can be as
true.
active as she wants in Pearl because it's a whole different character.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just surprised that some of the reactions aren't as because again, I'm comparing this directly, honestly, to Longlegs,
Right.
and to me, this was way better
Well, I loved the villain
from
in
the
this one. I
feeling. You know,
didn't-
the go ahead.
The villain in this one is her dad. And even though I knew throughout the whole thing that it was her dad, when I finally saw her dad, like I need
Yeah.
to see this guy, I need to figure it out, and I saw the cult kind of whole thing of it, I that's scarier to me, that type of person who's able to get this groundswell beneath them of people
Yeah.
who have of like minds, like because you start to realize that those are the same people that were picketing.
Well, you know, it's
outside.
interesting. We're talking about satanic panic, but this
Right.
film is saying no, that's real. These
Right.
people were actually. They were out there.
They're people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe the Hillside, is the Hillside Strangler? Did I get the wrong one again?
You did again. So it's Richard Ramirez,
Okay.
who's the Night Stalker.
So-
but at the same time, the Golden State Killer is going up.
Okay.
He's,
So it may
he's
be
there.
that the devil actually exists.
Right.
And, you know, it's real.
Right.
And I don't know if Ty West, I don't know what he's trying to say in this thing, but I don't know if he's trying to explain what happened in the 80s and how crazy this is, or does he actually think that it's a legit, you know, because ultimately the father, you know, perpetrated the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody. He killed lots of people around
Right.
her,
He did. Yeah.
and including a couple of the police officers. And
Right.
Yeah,
As
in
Kevin
the end.
Bacon even said,
yeah,
"Dude, you're wow! I never.
I
knew
can't believe you did it with your
Yeah.
own hands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about the film?
Honestly, I would say the only thing that I didn't care for, and once again, spoilers, guys. I thought the whole head shotgun explosion at the end.
Oh,
I
yeah, I
could
know
have
you
done
hated that.
I did not care for that. I thought like
You didn't mind her crunching a dude's nuts with her heel
Here's the thing,
or her
because
was that stiletto?
stiletto? Yeah.
That was okay.
Well,
But the gratuitous with the head at the end.
Here's why. Because I felt like here's why. I felt like they had actually built up to a really nice emotional climax at that point. between her dad and her and everything she's been through, right? And I feel like the head explosion was almost like a laughing gag.
No, I think she had to do it.
No, I know she has to kill him.
Right. She has
but I didn't need to see his head open up like a melon.
But she has to shoot him in the head because that's where his brain is.
He's saying he just didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
You didn't want to see it, but you wanted to know it happened.
Right.
I mean...
You can cut back to a shot of like a ruined skull for me. That's fine.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. They did the whole thing where they're making a mask of her face.
Right.
And so I guess they're kind of setting that up.
Right.
And so I understand that. But at the same time, I'm like, for me, that it's still like, don't get me wrong, and it was a really good effect. It wasn't digital, I don't think. I think it was just a straight up.
You mean they actually shot a guy?
No, they shot a prosthesis.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. I don't know what you meant by that, but yeah.
But they blew apart a prosthesis, right? Anyway, yeah, it was really good. Anyway. But I could have done without that just because I thought it undercut.
How would you have liked? How did you want that to end?
I wanted her to pull the trigger, right?
That's it.
Okay.
Boom.
Cut.
And if you wanted to, maybe a higher up shot, maybe pulling back of a guy's body with just a mess of what was left of what would be ahead.
Got to remember though, this is still a horror. I mean, Ty West makes horror films.
It's a horror film, and that's one of the things I've never been a huge horror guy.
The thing I didn't like about Long Legs is they didn't. They didn't do any of that.
See, because
and you're expecting that.
Because the thing is, I haven't seen Long Legs, but I did watch the trailer for it,
right.
And it was saying how it's like the most terrifying film since Silence of the Lambs.
It's a lie.
And Silence of the Lambs didn't have a lot of gore in it.
No.
But it's by far.
Oh, Silence of the Lambs is way more terrifying than this one was.
Buffalo Bill is way scarier.
No,
sure.
Nicolas Cage, as much as I love Nicolas Cage,
it
was a little bit over like a little too much. Listen,
pretty good.
Anthony
He's
Hopkins,
only a little bit too much.
Anthony Hopkins, went overboard as Hannibal Lecter, but he did it in a way that fit that character. Sure. I don't know what the hell Nicolas Cage was doing, and I actually think what's going to happen is for Long Legs, they're going to make a prequel because you never really know why what's going on in that film is going on. I think because he produced this as well, Nicolas Cage produced it with Perkins. I have a feeling they're probably going to do a prequel, like Ty West did with this.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Ty West planned
all this. I was reading where he did plan the 3.
He did.
That they were playing. Now, I don't know, like it was like a internet thing, so I could be wrong, but that it was planned to have the 3.
I like that. You know what movie he was in that I saw? Have you ever seen You're Next? Have you seen You're Next?
No.
About the family that has a reunion and people start shooting arrows through the windows.
No.
Ty West was the first one to get an arrow through. That he he worked with the directors and stuff, and he was the first one. I think that was Ty West. I haven't seen any of his earlier.
Right.
What?
That's not the same movie about the woman who marries into the game family and
that's
to kill
her.
Ready, Set, Go,
yeah,
or something like
ready,
that.
Yeah, Ready or Not.
Ready or Not.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
No, this is another one like in that vein, but kind of funny but horrific.
Okay.
I have not seen his earlier films. I guess he's got a Western as well, Ty West, and he's got a couple other horror films. I kind of want to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
I love, like I said, on the list, I haven't seen Pearl, but I'm going to say probably it's going to be X, Maxxxine, and then Pearl. But I'm going to hold that because Pearl, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually going to watch it pretty quickly because I want to.
I think it's available on like Prime.
I have it. I own it.
I
bought it. I just haven't watched it, so I can't. So, if you're gonna rate this film, scale 1 to 5. We do 1 to 5 here.
Right.
What's your rating?
It's a tough one. I'm gonna give it 3 stars.
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Okay.
This is also I will caveat this by saying I've never been a huge horror fan. Yeah, I've never been a huge horror fan. They've never really hit me the way that they hit other people.
Interesting. Maria?
I'm giving it a 4.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed it,
Yeah.
but I also think it's the best final girl movie I've seen. Like, she was a final girl standing, and she was consistently the final girl. Like she did everything she needed to do to be there.
Yeah, because most
live.
final, remember Friday the 13th, the final girl in the Friday the 13th Part 2 gets killed right at the first.
Exactly.
Right at the first. Have you seen the film Final Girl?
No, I have not.
which is a tongue-in-cheek version of that. It's pretty good. So we should watch that one.
Yes.
I won't put it on the list, but we should watch it.
There's I think there's actually a book called like The Final Girl. So
There is a book.
There's a
There's a
woman
book
who
about
wrote
it, yeah.
The Final Girl
Yeah.
comes from her book.
Oh,
The
okay.
idea of the final girl
Comes from her book.
I actually
Yeah.
read that, and I can't remember the name of the book, but it was pretty good. And she coined that term
Right.
based on.
Oh, so is this like a film author, like a film scholar type person?
She was commenting on films specifically. I think it's called Chainsaws and Women.
Sure.
I can't remember the exact title, but
No, because I
she
know that
coined the term final
there's
girl.
actually a novel about a support group of women who happen to be what we would term a final girl.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I didn't
really?
know that.
Yeah.
that sounds
There's
interesting.
Okay, but
Yeah,
that's
I've never read it.
obviously
Yeah, it's a
fiction,
novel.
but,
Yeah.
Men, Women, and Chainsaws. Look that
Okay.
up.
Sure.
And she coined the term final girl. That's
Right.
where that came from. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah.
Because Maya Goth, normally I give
She's
her a
great.
5 in everything she does. I just can't get over this woman. I used to think she was probably the most brave until I saw Poor Things with Emily Stone.
Yes.
And I changed my mind with her because she was amazing in that movie. But I think Maya Goth is. I just can't get over her what she does. Her just there, and she's married to or dating Shia LaBeouf and has a kid with him. So, I mean that says something right there. So I give it a 4. So that's a 4, 4, and a 3. What's the average? 3.5. I don't. 3?
So 4 is 8 plus 3 is 11 divided
It's
by
3 and
3
2/3.
is
3 and 2/3. There you go.
Yeah.
That's our recommendation on the
3.75.
Cinematic Lounge. All right. So we're not going to spin for the next movie film for Maria because
Right.
we're already going to do singles. We're doing singles next.
Oh,
Ooh.
that's by the way, when you guys were talking
Yeah.
about that on the last one, I was like, I totally remember Singles came out in like 92.
I think so. Yeah, 92.
So I was
Right.
like, I was in college, like I was like 19. So it like hit me just perfectly, even though they're a couple years older than I was at the time. Bridget Fonda's in it. And look for a small cameo by the band Pearl Jam.
Ooh. I
They
love
actually, Eddie Vedder's in it.
Yeah.
They actually play the backup band for Matt Dillon. Is Citizen Dick is the name of his.
That's amazing.
Citizen
the other thing
Dick
I
is
liked
the
about
name of
this
it.
was the Breakfast Club. Was not
Oh,
the Breakfast
the
Club,
reference
it was
to
the
St. Elmo's Fire.
Oh yeah,
No,
yeah.
It was
he-
all throughout there.
They had
That's right, yeah,
movie
yeah.
playing.
Casey
Yes.
Kasem. I mean,
And it was in the
no.
Yeah.
It was on a marquee
Yes,
at
it
one
was on a
point.
marquee.
Yeah.
He
It
hit
was
the
great.
he hit the 80s. And the other thing I liked is she was in a shitty apartment
Yeah.
on Hollywood Boulevard,
Yeah, yeah.
but owned a convertible Mercedes with a vanity plate on the
I
back.
really
You know
liked
what?
it.
You know what that is?
I like wanted that car.
that
That's
is
porn money.
I'm going to throw this out here. Yeah, it is porn money, and I'll tell you what it is. It's people who are cash rich but have terrible credit.
Right.
You don't have good enough credit to get a nice apartment, but if you slap down $10,000 in cash,
Get a car.
then
Yeah.
you can get a Mercedes convertible.
Yeah. So that's what's going on there. So
Yeah.
that's great. All right, let me get this going. We got
Ooh, I
Reminds
can
me of the
see the
movie The
question.
Big Short.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. They all had the big.
Well, the,
short
Yeah.
on
the
that,
guy
so I
was
thought you
talking
were-
about. He was talking about like, he's like, he's talking about how he's like bad credit. He's got like. He's like strippers have made my nut, basically, in the sense that like he's made all
She
this
goes, I
money.
have 3 loans on 3 houses.
Yeah,
and it's
he's
all
like-
cash.
He's like, what?
I can't get enough of them, he said. All right, so this is questions only for you. We've answered a bunch of these, so this is for you. Whatever
Okay.
comes
What if it's a new question for
Well,
all of us?
Well, if it's a new question, we'll do it. If it's not,
All right.
you're on your own.
Well, I don't want to just be the only guy talking about the question. That's weird.
Oh, we already answered this.
Who was your first movie crush? You did it last time.
we
Okay.
Yes.
just did it.
Actually,
I
it's
just want to recap. Maria's is Tom Laughlin, a.k.a. Billy Jack,
Billy Jack. Oh, that's
which
the
is
other-
amazing.
I was like, it's Tom Laughlin.
Billy Jack. Unbelievable.
Billy Jack.
Unbelievable.
I'm going to take this
Right.
left foot
Right.
and walk you on the right side
Right.
of your head.
Yeah, no,
Yay!
right.
Somebody
You know what?
else.
Oh, just a quick side note about Billy Jack. When it first came out, it was a massive failure.
Yeah.
Tom Laughlin bought it back from the studio, re-released it with his own money on like college campuses, and it became this big cultural
That's
thing.
amazing.
Yeah.
There you go. You're ahead of your time.
I just like the
And
song.
mine was Sally
One, two,
Field.
soldier rides.
Will
There you
always be Sally Field. So
Yeah, you mentioned
you saw that. He's like, okay. So who's your?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, on the one hand, it's obviously Princess Leia. You know.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Ooh, Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
I grew up like I mean, but honestly, truly, I would have to say to this day, and it's still to this day. I saw Labyrinth with Jennifer Connelly, but I was the same age as she was in the film. So but
she was 12 in the film.
She's like 15 in the film. I was
that woman hasn't aged.
I know, and she still looks fantastic.
She was
today.
just in Top Gun. Maverick. She's unbelievable.
Oh,
I
she
know.
is.
Yeah.
She is.
She's everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah. So that's Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like I said, she's literally like truly like 18 months older than me. So like, I've just kind of grown. I've just it can happen. Yeah, right. I'm sure she's gonna leave like the guy. She's married to that British dude.
The British dude. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the thin
James Bond.
No, the thin guy.
The
with
accent alone.
There's no way.
The thin guy. What?
He's got Paul Bettany.
Oh, I love Paul Bettany.
Exactly. Who does?
Who would? I wouldn't leave him.
Yeah,
He's
I
great.
would leave him for me.
No, Jennifer Connelly comes up all the time. Like yeah. There's that movie that she plays in a grocery store at night. What is that one?
Career Opportunities, my friend.
We
We can talk about her filmography.
How about what's the other one with Jared Leto? What was that movie where she's?
Oh gosh,
That's brutal.
I've only ever seen that movie once.
Yeah, you can only watch that once. You can't watch that
more than once.
What is that one?
I can't remember the name of it. But I was like a big fan of her in like Mulholland Falls.
Yeah.
And Dark City she was
in.
I
was just say Dark City.
You know, she was in, and then like it's funny too because you know, she's just, you know, like she's maintained her relevance. She was in Little Children.
This is why. Okay, this is why the movie Top Gun Maverick.
Uh-huh.
I believe there's a theory out there.
Oh boy.
That when he does Mach 10 and he ejects out of that plane, that he dies.
Sure.
And the rest of the movie is a fever dream, his death dream.
Right. Yeah.
That's why Jennifer Connelly is his girlfriend she's perfect, right? She has that bar, everybody loves her, and she's perfect. And at the end of the film, she pulls up, I think, in a Corvette or whatever car. Yeah. She goes, come on, and that's why I think that theory about him dying is true, because he got her in heaven.
Well, with
the car.
You know, it's funny.
The car.
She is actually mentioned in the original Top Gun. Her character is.
Yes, she is.
The daughter. She's the daughter of the admiral.
Right. When he says, he says, you know, he says you did a flyby on so and so's daughter, Penny something or another, whatever her name is. So they brought her back.
I understand,
for that,
but I'm just saying. I think that
I don't
proves
think
my theory that he died
is,
when he Mach 10, because you get ejected at Mach 10, you disintegrate.
Yeah, but the moment things went down, he probably went from Mach 10 to like Mach.
He died, and that's why he lands in the diner. And the little kid looks like the 50s. Come on, that was all a fever dream.
I am not a fan of that film, so you don't have to sell me on that.
I'm just saying. But Jennifer Connelly was his prize when he died.
I guess.
It makes sense. All right, nice job.
Okay.
Right. I think you should watch X. If you want, I'll give you the Blu-rays.
All right.
Blu-rays, that and Pearl. I have both.
Pearl's on streaming. I noticed that.
Okay, you can watch some Pearl, and then next film we do is Singles.
Yay!
You're gonna
directed by Cameron Crowe.
I like Cameron.
It was written, so that was before he did Almost Famous, right?
Yeah, right. Almost Famous.
He wrote Fast Times.
Well, Fast Times was based on his.
I know, but he wrote it. He was a writer.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, so okay.
So was Singles his first theatrical film? Do we know?
No. But Say Anything.
Cameron Crowe directed Say Anything?
Yeah, that's why it's good.
Wait a second.
Lloyd Dobler.
I'm going to double check that.
Why did I think he did?
I don't want to buy, sell, or process anything.
I understand. Cameron Crowe directed Say Anything?
I thought he did Perfect with
John Travolta.
Yeah,
no,
but
that was
I don't
early.
think so.
It was a good movie though.
Sylvester Stallone direct Perfect.
I don't know who, but I thought Cameron.
You're
Crowe
right.
wrote
Cameron
it.
Crowe did Say Anything.
Yeah,
Oh,
Say Anything's.
I
love that.
Wow, it's a great
Never
film.
seen it.
Lloyd.
I had no
Oh my
idea.
gosh, Lloyd Dobler.
You've never
John. It's one of John.
Okay, I'm adding that one. Wait a minute. You've never seen.
Thing. No,
you've
I've
never seen.
it.
Oh wow.
It is
I
one
like
of
the
the.
song.
Insane.
Let me put it this way.
I was always so jealous of Rosanna Arquette. I'm like, how do you get these men to sing these songs
James Bridges
about
directed
you?
Perfect.
And
Rosanna, what? Rosanna
well,
Arquette?
you know, In Your Eyes is written about her.
Really?
And then
Yeah.
Toto wrote a song about her too.
She was in 8 Million
Ways
Ways to Die.
Yeah,
She
looks
was great.
fantastic
She
too.
was great. Did they get away at the end? I forget. Did she live or die?
Yes, she does. She lives.
She does.
It's a relatively happy ending
with Jeff.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Morning After with Jeff Bridges, Jane Fonda?
No, I
He
haven't.
plays kind of the same character. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty
cool.
good. All right.
Okay.
Nice
Thank you
job
very
on the
much.
sex
Yes.
on the beach.
There you
Cheers.
go. Cheers.
Very much so. Plus, I feel like I got a nice dose of vitamin C.